Hey everyone, it's the effing podcast. I'm your co-host here, Nick Harrington.
I'm Bowen Belmer.
If you can please do us a huge favor, please like and subscribe to us wherever it is you're listening to us. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Also, go ahead and find us on Instagram and give us a follow. You can find us at the F1NG podcast. Please enjoy. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week of the effing podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This week's episode, Bo and I are breaking down some recent news happening in F1 for the last week. We've got some rumors. We're talking driver shakeups as we approach silly season here in a couple weeks. And then we're talking Hungary. Who's hungry? I'm hungry for Hungary. Talking what's happening, some good predictions. DR3 is back. Thank you for tuning in.
There was such big news last week that it was hard to feel like this week came with groundbreaking news.
Yeah, and it's hard to top Daniel Ricciardo coming back in F1. Like, I don't know how something like that would happen unless some crazy thing, but yeah, the news this week, we got some little tidbits here.
It's a hangover. Last week was a party. Now F1's a little hungover, so, a little less jumping off the page, but there were some things that happened.
Yeah.
Namely, Verstappen, kind of a dick.
Verstappen, kind of an asshole. This guy, he's a video game nerd through and through. I think we talked about he's a top 5 ranked FIFA player. He's also an incredible sim racer like most of these guys are. They were competing on iRacing. Something happened where another driver, I think, pissed off his teammate, and he basically harpooned into this guy going into turn 3 or one of the corners there. Full speed, no brakes. T-boned the hell out of a driver.
And just knocked him out of the race. So yeah, this was at the iRacing Golden Toast Sim Racing Grand Prix. So I know I just called him a dick, but I laughed so hard when I saw this video.
Dude, I think it's great because also I wish I could see a live reaction of this other guy that was on the other end of this. Because I'm just picturing, I've got like a mental image that he's maybe some overweight guy. This is like the only thing he has going in his life is this like virtual sim racing thing. Max Verstappen is Max Verstappen. It doesn't matter how the fuck this all ends. But I would have loved to like see a live reaction of this other guy on the other end being like, God fucking damn it. And then also, could you even get that mad if Max Verstappen did that to you?
So this is what was so funny to me about it. First of all, just a hilarious move. Like from an actual professional driver, gets pissed off in an iRacing match and race and literally dive bombs dude and T-bones him out of the race. What cracked me up about this, somewhat of a similar line of thinking, but I don't even know this guy that he hit, but that is the biggest moment of this guy's career.
Yeah, easily.
Like, I don't care. Maybe there's some huge iRacing sim fan out there who's going to listen to this and be all up in our comment section telling me I'm an idiot. I'm sorry, but the biggest moment of this guy's career is going to be the time that he got T-boned and dive bombed off track by Max Verstappen.
That's what he's going to be remembered for forever.
That's what I mean. This guy could win the
Golden
Toast Sim Racing Grand Prix every year for the next 5 years, and he'll still be the guy who got ran off track by Max Verstappen, which is so funny. It's kind of like a lot of people when I was in school and stuff would joke about like how much money would it take to get punched in the face by Mike Tyson or whatever, and the correct answer is $0, because you get to walk around the rest of your life and be like, I got punched in the face by Mike Tyson, which is awesome.
Oh, so you're saying you do that for free?
Oh yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I would do it for free. Does he have gloves on?
Yeah.
Just one?
Well, yeah. Jake, would you take a punch from Mike Tyson?
I think, yeah.
To say that you took a punch from the GOAT?
I mean, if someone was like, I don't know, I would just rather talk to Mike Tyson. I don't think I really need to get punched.
Jake's like, I want Messi to kick me in the balls. Yeah. Which could happen now that he's in the U.S. Maybe we
run into Messi.
Yeah, I'll get punched in the face by Mike Tyson, who I believe he might even live in Miami. Tyson?
Yeah.
He's a Miami guy. I don't know if he lives there, but he strikes me as a Miami guy.
He's probably in Vegas.
That's a Miami thing.
Okay, maybe Vegas. All right, we'll try to orchestrate this. I'll get punched in the face by Tyson. You'll get kicked in the balls by Messi, and Jake. Nick
and I'll hang out. I'll watch. Yeah, I'll pay out if you guys
Nick
need
will
money.
Get T-boned by Max Verstappen in the sim racing game.
Deal.
No, but
all
in
is right in the world.
Though, you know what I mean though? Like this is like the highlight of this dude's career now. So funny.
I've also been on the other end. I do quite a bit of sim racing. I've got like a pretty good setup at home. I know the feel of that guy when it's a long day at work. All you want to do is just pound out some laps, get one good race in, and some dick rear ends you. Not Max Verstappen. I've probably yelled more than I should.
Yeah,
in
it's
iRacing.
Less funny when it's like random guy McGee who's on the sim.
Yeah, Tits McGee, like, yeah.
All right, rolling through more stories. K-Mag His wife had a baby.
Yeah. Shout out K-Mag. Shout out K-Mag's wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Shout out them.
Yeah. Also, she had her baby last week. The last 7 days or so. 9 months after he got pole in Brazil.
Is that true?
9 months ish.
Okay.
Close enough. So
Shout
K-Mag
out.
goes out there, gets pole.
And
Maybe his wife's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you get one chance, and this is it."
well, shout out K-Mag and family.
It's gonna be a fast
huge.
baby.
Yeah. Other news: Latifi is going to get his MBA at the London School of Economics.
Yeah.
Honestly, good for him. I want to make a joke about it because there's no shortage of Latifi memes and jokes on the internet, but good for you, man.
Dude, Latifi's one of those guys, like, not a good driver. Go Tifi. At all. But he is a very likable dude.
Yeah,
And
I
I like
think-
him a lot as a guy. And so, like, he clearly he does not have any sort of future in F1. Maybe doing, like, other racing series he can, but, like,
As a driver,
as a driver, for sure.
I think we will see Latifi in the paddock.
As a broadcaster.
Somewhere.
I would like that.
Or on a team, maybe in like a coaching position.
Mm.
I think he's not done with F1. I think we will see a future Latifi in the sport, but not as a driver, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he must have done well. He wrote this very long Instagram post. It was one of those things that's like, good for you, or I'm sorry that happened, but I'm not reading all of that.
Dude, that reminds me of those people that post on Facebook that are like, exciting news, and it becomes like a 2-page post about how they got a new job. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to read through all of this.
Yeah.
I saw that post on Twitter and I was like, what the fuck is this about?
Yeah, shout out Twitter, though. You can sum it up in 140 characters, whatever.
Just read the comments and see what people say
Worked
about
hard,
it.
MBA, London School of Economics. Shout out Latifi. That is awesome. In other news, the FIA is expected to approve Andretti Racing's application to form a team.
This is awesome, man. Andretti's been trying to get into F1 for quite a while now. We've got Logan Sargent with a US-based driver for the first time in a long time, so I love that. The F1, like FIA, and I believe this is just they approved their application for them to formally apply to be a team. So it's like not even that they're going to see them on the grid. And also if they did get on the grid, it's probably not going to be another like 10 to 15 years. I think about F1, it's kind of like a European boys club.
So far, yeah. Historically, it has been.
Where it's like the barrier to get in to F1 as a new team is so hard. We've got Audi that's joining in 2026, but they're doing so by replacing the Alfa Romeo Sauber team. And so the fact that we might have 2 new cars on the grid and as an American team too, like it's awesome.
Would you like to see? I mean, we obviously there are sub series to F1, obviously F2, F3, Formula E, so on and so forth. It would be pretty cool if at some point F1 transitioned into something more like professional soccer, where there were different leagues and teams
that'd be
can
fun.
get like relegated up and down to different leagues.
Wow.
That would be a lot of fun, really fun time.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that would work, and the money involved would be very complicated, I would imagine.
It'd be tricky.
It would be awesome to see that because right now, we talk about this a lot. 1 through 10 already matters very much. Well, now 10 through 20 would also
Kind of
matter
matters.
because
Yeah.
you're fighting to then not take last because you don't want to get relegated.
There's more at stake.
Right. So I would love to see something like that. I don't know. It's probably not realistic anytime soon. But
Yeah, and also now that they've introduced this new cost cap budget as well too. I don't know the specifics of it. If that cost cap, I know like if you get first, actually no, it's just a true cost cap.
Yeah,
so it
it's
doesn't
across the
matter.
board. Yeah.
Where like what you finish. I think they changed it though based on where you finish throughout the season. I want to see you get shorter sim time if you finish first than if you finish last, and maybe I'm wrong on that.
So yeah, something in that ballpark though would be really cool to like balance out competition, but then make it a competition at the bottom as well.
It's like the fantasy teams or the fantasy leagues where last place you're like taking the ACT or
Yeah.
you're like doing something stupid like
Exactly.
that. Maybe they just do that. You get last place, like the drivers have to do something
they-
like so embarrassing.
Do the Euro boys do that? Is that a thing in Europe? Like, do they? I'm sure fantasy soccer. It is definitely a thing, fantasy soccer. But
Yeah.
is it a similar culture where it's like, hey, you're getting punished for taking last?
I hope so.
Jake, you're definitely a fantasy sports guy. Are you in fantasy leagues for stuff?
Well, no, I used to, but I was just gonna ask. They do like fantasy, like
F1?
F1.
Yeah.
It exists.
Oh,
yeah. I wouldn't say it's popular, and I've never participated. And maybe let's just next year.
We'll start
the
a
Effing
league up.
podcast will make a really bad team.
Yeah.
We'll do something. Next year, we'll do something. But yeah, it exists. And we'll come up with a pretty great punishment. Last piece of news Nick had coffee with Toto and looked really sad. So,
I loved the photos from this, honestly. It reminded me of like maybe a really bad first date that someone goes on, where Nick clearly was receiving bad news by Toto Wolff.
oh, yeah.
Looked like he was on the verge of crying, breaking down, trying to hold it together all in one while like sipping a little cappuccino or something.
I know this went from. I'm sad for him.
Same.
Like I went from like a little bit dancing on the grave because I'm very happy for AlphaTauri and like the entertainment value for the remainder of my season. But it's gotten to the point now where I actually feel bad for the guy. There was a video of Ricardo walking into AlphaTauri headquarters and like meeting with the team for the first time, and I swear in the background you could see Nick like heading his way out with a duffel bag. Like it was like he wasn't even out of the door yet, and they're celebrating. And did you see the picture that they posted of Danny in uniform? But it's not him. Like they photoshopped his head
onto Nick DeVries's body.
I don't know. Okay,
that's like a salt in the wound. For him.
Don't know if it's actually Nick DeVries's body, but this picture, it is photoshopped. Like I'll drop it on the episode.
Yeah.
It is definitely photoshopped, and somebody even found the picture that they think they photoshopped his face from.
Oh no!
Like I'll put them both up. The face mask.
Yeah, DeVries is scrolling through. He's like, that's my fucking body.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
what are they doing?
His head looks like way too big for the picture.
Yeah.
So if they actually photoshopped Ricardo's head onto DeVries's body and published that picture, it is the most diabolical thing of all time.
I imagine like the AlphaTauri PR teams, like we got to put something out there. We got to do something right now. It's kind of like the SpongeBob brain where his whole brain's on fire and SpongeBob's running around.
Oh, yeah.
That was AlphaTauri PR. Like,
trying to figure
this is
it
good
out.
enough. Just send it out.
Oh, totally. That's all I had on news. You got anything else?
Yeah. Well, I would say like the more that I've kind of digested this whole Nick DeVries leaving AlphaTauri, I feel like last week it was just hype. You know, like the first thought is just like Daniel Ricciardo's fucking back. Let's go. This is sick.
Yeah.
Pretty harsh if I have to think through it. Like,
dude, it was
DeVries
so
has
bad.
not been performing, but like, and Yuki's been doing pretty well this season. But the difference to me has not been like, yep, see ya, Nick, we're out.
Well, the big thing though, Nick wasn't a Red Bull guy. He didn't come up in the Red Bull Academy. He was signed with Mercedes previously. Like I've seen some stuff come out since he's been cut that was kind of like. It was like it was a contentious decision to give him the seat to begin with, and so the ice was thin. You know, like probably much thinner, obviously, than we realized and everyone else realized. But yeah, it is pretty crazy. I guess on that same topic and transitioning a little bit here to driver contracts and shakeups. You know, we're 2 races away from the summer break.
Mm-hmm.
Silly season.
Silly season is what it's been coined and what's been come to known as. Last year's silly season, for anyone that's like new to F1, this is basically the time of year where all the teams are starting to line up their driver contracts for the next year. Mm-hmm. Last year was madness. There was a span of 48 hours where I think Oscar Piastri was on 4 different teams all at the same time. I don't know if we're going to see that again this year.
But I was actually in France when that happened. So not that it's like, well, it's sort of related just because of Alpine.
Yeah.
So I was in France for a wedding while that was going on. And it was so funny. For I guess those who are newer to F1 and maybe don't know, the long and short of it is that Piastri was an Alpine contracted driver while he was in the juniors. The seat opened up. They posted saying Piastri will be driving for them next year. Within like 12 hours, Piastri goes on Twitter and says, I absolutely am not driving for Alpine next year. And ends up signing with McLaren, which took away Danny Ricciardo's seat. But watching him just like publicly dish Alpine, which by the way is the French team. That's why I mentioned that I happened to be in France at the time. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And just like that's the type of stuff. And that's where, you know, the silly season came from. And just the contract movements are wild.
I think the big thing for this year, there's a couple drivers with their contracts ending at the end of this season. K-Mag, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, Albon, Logan Sargent, and Lewis Hamilton.
Let's run through them one by one.
I think the story here is like Hamilton. Do you think he's staying around this year? Like, is he going to retire at the end of the season, or do you think he's going to have a future in F1?
0% chance he retires. He'll be in a Mercedes.
Mercedes. I think so too, man. I feel like if this would have been, I think he's going for that 8th title, truly. And I think for him, it'd be such a cool story if now to be kind of struggling at Mercedes, if Mercedes is able to put it back together with Hamilton on top, that is the ultimate way to walk out as a driver.
Oh yeah, I just don't see a Mercedes without a Hamilton and a Hamilton without a Mercedes anytime soon.
Same.
If ever. Like, I think he'll end up doing the thing that a lot of bands do where they go on a retirement tour like 13 times. Like, final tour.
Yeah, last time ever.
For real this time. Literally, I mean, this happened, Odessa. I don't know if you know who Odessa is, but I saw Odessa last year as part of their, like, farewell tour, and then they did their same farewell tour at Summerfest again.
Farewell again.
Again, yeah. I'm pretty sure Elton John's been on a farewell tour in New York
the last
for
40 years,
literally,
maybe?
yeah, since, like, we were born.
But
So
dude, with
that's-
Hamilton, though, like, he does have a lot of interest in things outside of F1. And so...
Yeah, well, I think he would just leave F1 if he were to leave.
For sure.
But who's filling that Mercedes seat?
I don't see... He's never going to go to a different team. He's either retiring or re-signing at Mercedes. But I think... I don't know, man. Like, he doesn't seem like he's, like, loving it like he used to. He seems like he's in a better place this year than last year. But, like, I also wouldn't be surprised if he's like, you know what? This has been fun. Time for me to now go solve, like, world hunger and all the things that he wants to do. And then maybe come back in, like, 3 years. You know? To me, that wouldn't be, like, out of the question for him to do.
No, I don't think it's out of the question. And as much as we love to rag on him, and I do love to rag on him for being a boring PC lame sometimes, I do think he's going to go on to do, like, really good things
I do too.
when he's out of F1. I genuinely do. I think the question here, I don't think the question is whether or not he resigns this year. I think the question is how long is the contract that he resigns?
1
Because
year.
If he,
I think
that's what I
it'd
was
be
going to
one more
say.
year.
If he ends up being on like a year-to-year basis, that becomes a little bit more interesting. I think there is 0% chance it's more than 3 years.
I think it'd be another
And
year.
it is likely a single year.
Yeah.
Running through the rest of them, so Magnussen probably going to get re-signed, I would imagine.
Yeah,
1 year.
I think about like this list here: Magnussen, Yuki, Ricardo, Zhou, Albon, and Sargent. And I think about like who is on, like who has the most pressure right now. Like which of these drivers like really needs to deliver to like secure their seat for next year. The two that come to mind for me, I think Logan Sargent is one that's kind of just been like a bag in the wind, you know, this season. Same with Zhou Guanyu, where this is now the second time we've talked about him ever. I see those two drivers kind of being like they're unfortunately a little forgettable. Where Albon is having a phenomenal season. I know he's going to get re-signed.
He'll be
probably
re-signed.
with Williams.
Probably a long-term contract. I think 3 years, easy.
And that team's on the up and up too.
Yeah.
I think Logan has got a lot to prove the rest of this season. Where if I'm him, I'm like every qualifying, every session, I need to start beating Albon or like delivering points.
Well, Logan's whole thing right now is he's the American guy.
That's true.
Like that's he's the American guy.
He's the one American guy
so,
on the grid.
Yeah, which is good. But do you think American fans have been taking to him in the way they probably hoped they would? Because I don't see it. Really.
I don't know any casual F1 fans that are in America that are Sargent fans.
But yes, right.
I don't
and
think I've ever met a Sargent fan to begin with.
Well,
I'm a Sargent fan.
Sargent has verifiably viewed our content before, so
We'll show you the Carfax.
I am a Sargent fan, but.
We do love you, Logan.
Kind of. Yeah, no, shout out.
Yeah.
Being the only American on the grid, that is awesome. But in all seriousness, though, yeah, to your point, I don't think I've ever ran into a casual American fan who is a fan of Logan Sargent because he's American.
And, like, the U.S. has, 3 races this season in the U.S.? That's going to happen whether Logan's there or not.
Yeah, I mean, who do you think who do you think you'll see more apparel of? Who's like a mid-tier? Do you think there's more apparel of Pierre Gasly or Logan Sargent at the Texas Austin Grand Prix?
For sure, Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and that's
easily.
So that I don't know. In different circumstances, I would say that's maybe enough to be like, okay, he'll get more time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll see. I'd like to see it. I mean, he P11 last week. Not to go back, but he put up a solid race.
Yeah.
Zhou is essentially the guy who almost died at Silverstone now 2 years ago. And that's kind of like, and he didn't actually almost die, but he was in a pretty horrific accident that it was honestly completely shocking. He walked away from it, and thank God he did, but it was shocking. That's the most notable thing he's done so far in F1, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
wreck.
And it wasn't his fault, really, but he's kind of just there otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of like this Zhou Guanyu guy and this guy that Max Verstappen rear-ended are kind of both known for the same things right now.
Good point. Do you think there are fans in China of him because he's Chinese? Do you think there are more fans in China of Zhou Guanyu because he's Chinese or American fans of Logan Sargent because he's American?
I think Zhou brings a whole China market to him.
Do you think so?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know anyone that lives in China, so I haven't been able to like run this by them.
Yeah.
But I feel like from what I know about China, I feel like they're going to have a lot stronger following of a Chinese driver than Americans that got into the sport from Drive to Survive, which is how I got into the sport. So I'm not shitting on myself and the fans that there are. But I think like what attracts U.S. fans to F1 are the personalities and like the loud drivers that are fun and cool and like edgy. And I think what's going to attract like someone from China to potentially follow someone is going to be more based on where that driver's from than from just like personality.
Well, we obviously, as the podcast for the American fan, have a huge Chinese following. So if you are Chinese, please
honestly,
chime in.
I would like to know.
I would be very curious to know if he is like a popular figure among Chinese people, because obviously like he's Chinese. Is he even from China? I guess. We don't know.
I don't know.
For sure.
I don't know.
Which is pretty horrible. But yeah, he was born in Shanghai. The driver, in my opinion, on this list with basically in the worst position as of right now, honestly, is probably Yuki, because he's in kind of a no-win a little bit. Like, if he outperforms Ricciardo, that's great, but is he ever going to get that Red Bull seat? Okay, if Ricciardo stomps Yuki moving forward, I think there is a high likelihood that he ends up in that number 2 Red Bull seat.
Daniel Ricciardo?
Yes, if he stomps Yuki towards the end of the season. I think there's a chance. If Yuki stomps Ricciardo, I'm not, as much as I would love to see it, and I would, I'm not convinced that he'll end up in that Red Bull seat.
I think a lot at play here. You're right, though. Like, Yuki is in a shit spot now where if he doesn't beat Daniel Ricciardo every race,
he'll probably
race,
not
it's
get
like,
re-signed.
what is wrong?
Right.
You know, no matter how good DR is performing. I think, though, that Yuki has a pretty good spot on that seat. I feel like
at AlphaTauri.
Yeah,
well,
in the Red Bull system.
The most likely scenario is he gets re-signed probably for another single year at AlphaTauri. Now, one interesting thing that I heard brought up that I'd love to talk about is with Aston Martin switching to a Honda powertrain and Honda moving away from AlphaTauri in the Red Bull system with Ford stepping in on their powertrain. I've heard some talk of Yuki's relationship really being and it's known that his relationship is really through Honda more so than it was with Red Bull. And so, is there a world where he sticks around AlphaTauri another year, or then goes to Aston Martin, and Lance Stroll's death gets faked with the Titanic submarine, and that's the seat that he fills? No, all jokes aside, but like
seriously, I think like that has a better shot of happening. I think a lot of this too is going to play out with Checo Perez. He's got another year left in his contract after this year, but Red Bull has been known to lay down the hammer mid-season. Like they just did it with Nick DeVries.
Turns out they do that.
Yeah, yes. Newsflash. And so, like, if he doesn't get Q3, like what did I say last week? He's got these 2 races to show it.
Yeah.
If Checo isn't performing, isn't making Q3, isn't finishing like high up in the points, I wouldn't be surprised if they say, hey, Checo, you're done. Yuki, get your little booty cheeks up here. You're driving next to Max.
Wait, do you think he would be the move before DR?
I think they've had DR and Max Verstappen driving before, also at different points of their careers. Daniel Ricciardo was like, I still want to be that number 1 driver. I think he's now just happy enough to have a seat.
Yeah, he would just be happy to be there. Right. It's totally different now.
He's like, if I win, great. I think, though, for Red Bull, they would probably put Yuki in that seat to see how he performs in a Red Bull, because that's like one of the future drivers of the team versus Daniel Ricciardo. He's a reserve driver. His contract's up at the end of this year. Like, who still is even going to replace Daniel Ricciardo long term, too? You know, like that's an open seat.
I mean, Lawson, there's options. There's Lawson, there's options out there. Well, we'll see. I would love to see that. I'd love to see Yuki up there. Other just kind of movement contract rumors to touch on real quick. There's some rumor about Lando potentially looking to Ferrari.
So a couple rumors that I've heard whispering around the paddock. Lando potentially having talks with Ferrari. Sainz potentially to go to Audi in 2016.
2026.
2026, thank you.
Sainz is going back in time, 2016, and joining Audi.
So is Audi. So we've got, and I think that almost seems pretty locked in from kind of what I've seen and read online is that Sainz will be making that move to Audi to be that number 1 driver. And then that leaves an open spot in Ferrari. I think everyone's kind of gunning for Leclerc right now. I feel like both those drivers are very unhappy, and both of them would willingly get out of that Ferrari system. Sainz especially, because it seems like Ferrari's really put their eggs in, hey, Leclerc, you're our number 1 driver. We like you a lot better. You get the good strategies. Sainz, you know what? We're probably just going to forget what our plan B is. You know, like that's kind of what happened last weekend. I feel like if I was Sainz, I'd be looking for any way to get out of that Ferrari team. I think Audi is probably his answer to be that number one driver there.
Do you think there's any chance in 24 we see a Ferrari without either Leclerc or Sainz?
I don't think next year.
Okay.
No.
Not
I don't
next
see
year.
that happening.
Okay.
No.
I think it's very unlikely as well.
I also don't see Lando as much fun as it would be to see Lando in a Ferrari. I don't see him really ever leaving McLaren. I feel like him and Zach Brown have got like such a good relationship. He's like built that team up. I don't see him ever stepping out of a McLaren.
That's a bet I would make. I think he'll leave McLaren.
You think so?
Yeah. I think he'll drive for at least one more team. I do. I don't really have a good reason, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's really the highlights for contracts. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs right now, but like you said, we're heading into the summer break. We're 2 races away from it. That's generally when a lot of this stuff really starts to pick up.
Definitely.
And so we'll see.
And I think a couple of drivers' names have been shown out and thrown around. Mick Schumacher is one that I feel like online consistently everyone's like, we want Mick back. I never really saw that with Mick Schumacher. To me, he's kind of like a Zhou Guan Yu or a Logan Sargent, where it's like those moments. He's got his dad's name.
He's Lance Stroll. He's Lance Stroll in a worse car. I bet you could replace Lance with Mick in that Aston Martin, and it would you wouldn't know. You
wouldn't know the difference.
You could do like the Scooby-Doo Max reveal. Like, it's been Mick. Yeah. It's been Schumacher the entire time, and he would have gotten away with it too.
Yeah, you dang kids.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the effing podcast, he would have gotten away with it.
We're on the scent.
Seriously though, they're the same guy to me, like as a driver, and I don't see a compelling reason to have him back in F1. And
I agree.
It sounds like I don't have anything against the guy, but there's just other up-and-coming drivers out there, like a Lawson, who deserve a seat.
Yeah,
before.
Nick has had his chance, and to me, just like didn't really leave anything that was like rememberable.
Yeah,
about him.
Yeah, sure.
Also, though, one driver we haven't mentioned, Mazepin.
Mazepin.
Mazepin, not Mazepin.
Yeah. We're really good at this, you guys.
I think he's got a chance, for next year. Right, Bo? Right?
No.
Latifi
will be there before he is. All right. Let's take a look at this coming weekend.
Yeah. Off to Hungary this weekend. We've got great back-to-back races coming up. Hungary this weekend. Spa the following week after. Great circuits, great track. Big thing that I'm watching for, I think every F1 fan is watching for this race, Daniel Ricciardo. Him and Yuki. I think that's like, anyone that's watching this race, that's the headline is like, how is he going to do?
There is only 2 people driving in this race this weekend, and it is Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda.
Yep.
I mean, beyond that, Max is probably going to win. If he does win 7 straight wins, which is ridiculous. But I think we're probably going to see it. It would be 12 straight wins for Red Bull, which is a record. Another question mark, I guess, is with McLaren. Where do we think they're going to stack up? Great performance last week.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm excited to see too, because they had Austria 2 races ago. Lando finished 4th last week. The podium for Lando.
It should have been a double podium. It was very unfortunate that it wasn't.
Yeah, and so I would love to see another good, solid race for McLaren this weekend. I feel like this track suits their car fairly well. High-speed corners, but then towards the end of the section, Sector 3, a lot of like lower-speed corners. I could see Williams kind of struggling on this. Not a lot of those high-speed straights where their cars really performed well. But yeah, I think that's something I'm going to watch too. I want to know how Checo Perez is going to qualify. I want to know, is he going to make Q3, Bo? Like, what's going to happen there?
He'll make Q3.
All right.
I just decided.
Yeah.
You got this. Checo, you're going to be in Q3 this week. I like the McLaren question coming into this week because this is also going to be a really big defining moment as to whether or not there is any like real. I mean, we're not quite halfway through the season yet, but they're in this position now, and the constructors are in 5th, 59 points. Ferrari's in 4th with 157 points. That's a pretty wide spread still. But I think this is a week where if they make a really big performance, you're starting to see the shift happen where they might be in contention for a constructor podium, essentially. Yeah. They're still pretty far outside of it, but this is kind of one of those, like, I see this as like a turning point opportunity for like, hey, last week wasn't a fluke. This is, or 2 weeks ago.
We're real.
This is like we're real contenders right now for essentially, third place maybe. But
yeah, especially going to the summer break too. If McLaren has a strong finish, if Aston Martin and Ferrari don't, like that is so much momentum that they carry through, I guess they got Spa the following week. But like, I agree with you, man.
Well, and it's super tight at the top with the exception of Ferrari. Mercedes in second with 203 points. Aston Martin right behind them with 181. Ferrari not too far behind them at 157. So really that race for second is pretty tight.
It's open.
And I think, this is the opportunity for McLaren to say, I'm in the ring in this fight for that position, which is huge. Another thing interesting about the Hungarian Grand Prix in general, the two most winning teams at this Grand Prix are McLaren with 11 wins and Williams. Williams tied with Ferrari for 7, which I thought was pretty surprising. Yeah. That historically Williams has been so successful here. Just a little fun anecdote.
You calling Albon for a dub here?
No, but we did talk about who's going to have more podiums for the rest of the season. I believe it was just Lando or the combined Aston Martin team.
Yeah.
Which I believe you took Lando.
I think I said McLaren versus Aston Martin, and then you said, well, basically we're looking at Lando or Alonso.
Piastri's going to get some kicks in there. But yeah, no, that's true. Besides that, I mean, those are really the main talking points heading into this preview, and we'll see. I can't wait for a time where we're heading into races really talking about who's competing for pole and first place, but I just don't see it going short of some type of technical issue or team failure. I just don't see it not happening for Red Bull and Max.
I don't either, and it's annoying, it's frustrating, but like they've been consistent, performing so well. And even they haven't had like a car failure either, too.
No, and by the way, speaking of the car, I mean, they're doing upgrades for this race and have shaved off 0.2.
Oh, nice.
So
just what we needed.
What we needed. I know, and it's hard because this is one of those things where I don't want to root against greatness. I want to see everybody else get better, but there's
It does ruin a lot of the excitement if you know going in who's going to win. But I will say, like, this is probably the closest we've ever been this season in having a true battle for second place, where right now there are 4 constructors that are pretty equivalent in terms of pace that like are all battling out for second. I think like that to me is what I'm watching. It's not Max Verstappen pulling away in P1. It's can Checo keep it together to get P2. But where is Mercedes, Aston Martin, McLaren, and Ferrari? How are these 4 teams going to stack up?
And most importantly, where are Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo?
And DR.
And that's pretty much that.
Should we do some predictions?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so I think we should do a qualifying prediction. Who's going to finish P1?
Okay.
Should we do
Max Verstappen?
Yeah, so Max Verstappen, and then my P1 prediction. I got Daniel Ricciardo going P1
that makes sense.
for qualifying. And then race prediction. Who you got like a podium? 1, 2, 3, kind of in your head?
Yeah. My 1, 2, 3 is going to be Max at 1, Lando at 3. I think the 2 spot is either going to be Russell or Leclerc.
Okay. I like that. I think like Mercedes historically performs really well here.
Yeah, Russell was on pole last year. It will be a 1, 2, 3, Max, Russell, Lando.
Yeah.
Landon
nomenclature.
Landon Morris.
Landon
Morissette. I've got for I think P1 finishing off here, top of the podium. I mean, I think Danny Rick, he's going first for qualifying. I think he's going fastest lap. I also think he's going to be the only driver that finishes, so I think he's going to be the only one. I'm picturing 19 cars DNFing, him pulling away. That's my race prediction. We're leaving it there.
That's just about the only way we will see that.
Yeah.
Have a good week.
Sadly.
We hope you enjoyed the effing podcast. Check out our socials for additional content, and we will see you out on the grid.